Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live Q&A. I'm Ben with Argo Visa. I'm a former consular officer, a former visa officer. I worked at consulates and embassies in the consular sections around the world doing visas for many years. I did over 60,000 visa interviews of F visas, B visas, H-1B visas, L visas, immigrant visas, any type of visa you can imagine. I've done that type of visa interview. And now for the last few years, I've been with Argo Visa. And what we do is we help people pass their visa interviews. We help visa applicants like you pass your visa interview on the first time when you have the best shot. Or if you've been refused previously, we help you pass your visa interview the next time, help you get over that prior refusal. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to take your questions live. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can get to during the course of this live Q&A. I want to see what the trends are right now, what people are interested in, what issues you're facing, and give you hopefully some really helpful information that's going to be helpful to you who asked the question and also helpful to everyone else who's watching. So let's get to it. I want to give you a few ground rules. Please post your question only once. If you post your question multiple times, I'm going to ignore those questions. So please post your question only once and let's begin, okay? So, first question from Everest Vine. Hello, sir. I have an interview in a couple of days. I was refused once due to DV lottery. I never won, though, just applied. How do I answer this question when asked in the interview? Okay, this is going to apply to some other people who may have other immigrant petitions that they'd applied for in the past. That DV lottery application, if you went in for an interview, or if you have a pending immigrant visa petition because you have a sibling or a parent or an aunt who petitioned for your family who's in the US, that's going to show on your application when they click on your name in their system. They're going to see that and they're going to think, okay, that's immigrant intent. That means that you want to immigrate to America at some point because this is on your record. Your challenge is going to be overcoming that and showing why that may be your plan in the future, or that may have been your plan in the past, but now your situation is different. If you're passive, if you don't address that proactively, they're going to assume, well, this person has immigrant intent, and so I'm not going to issue their visa. Okay, so you've got to be proactive in addressing why your situation is different now, why your situation hasn't gotten to the point where you want to immigrate, so that you can show them that you're going to be a good temporary visa holder now. Okay. Rajiv's World says that he has his F1 visa interview on August 7th. Good luck. The F visa interview is a student visa interview. The key there is to show that you will be a good student and return to your country afterwards. Okay. You have to know your own highlights. You can't go into a visa interview and passively just wait to be asked questions. If you just wait for the visa officer to ask you questions and you'll only answer with a short answer afterwards, you're going to not give yourself the best chance of passing your interview. Okay. We call that being an active interviewee. You need to know what the information is that you want to present and bring that out to the forefront. Okay. The worst piece of advice that I see all over the internet, on forums, on other websites, on other YouTube videos, the absolute worst piece of advice that I see being spread around is that you should give short answers in your visa interview, because if you don't say anything wrong, then they can't hold it against you. That's not the way the visa interview works. You don't start from the point of they're going to issue your visa, and only if you say something wrong do you get knocked down. No, you start from the bottom. You start at the point where they don't trust you at all. They don't have to give you your visa. The only thing that's going to convince them is for you to say things, present them with information that will change their opinion to something positive. So you have to go in, you have to give full answers. Okay, let's go to another question here. I want to go and prepare for the GRE in the US for about 2 months. Can I travel with a B1, B2? Well, it depends. If you're just going to travel and study on your own, sure. That's just a visitor's visa. That's a B1, B2. You can go to the US. You can do whatever you want. You can read, study, and you could even take the GRE in the US on a B1, B2 visa. Attending a class, a formal class, is going to be a little bit iffy. Yes, technically you can do a non-degree granting short-term study on a B1, B2 visa at a training school for the GRE. Yes, you can do that. You're going to need to be prepared to present the actual regulation to the visa officer to show them that this is actually allowed because it's such a rare use case for a B1, B2 visa that they're not going to be familiar with it. They'll be a little confused. Our goal is to make the visa officer not confused. Our goal is to make the visa officer confident that they understand what's going on in our situation and that they will issue our visa. So you'll have to be prepared to explain that to them. Susan says, I was previously refused in November 2021. I'm very sorry to hear that. You do still have a chance to get your visa issued, though. Okay. If you have been refused previously, that only means that you have some negative information in the background when you go in for your application, if it was 214B. It does not mean that the visa officer has to make the same decision as they made the last time. The visa officer can make a new decision every time that you go in for a visa interview. The visa officer can make a new decision. They can change their decision. They don't have to rely on what the previous visa officer said or decided. They can make a new decision, but they will be influenced by that previous negative decision. So what you have to be prepared to do at the very beginning of the interview, they're probably going to ask you something if it's been a very short amount of time since the refusal. What's changed since your previous interview? The answer to that question is very important because if you just say nothing, you're basically saying, visa officer, please refuse me. They've been told by their managers, if nothing has changed since the previous refusal, there's no reason for you to issue the visa. It administratively makes things run faster. So what you have to do is give them some information. It doesn't have to be a real big change or even a material change. It does have to be some information that's going to get that visa officer to think about your case and think, maybe this person does actually merit a visa. Maybe they didn't deserve to get refused the last time. So you have to be prepared with some information, laudable, supporting information that's going to support your case, right? You have to be prepared with it. Okay. Love says, do they tell you why you were refused? No, they do not. Visa officers rarely to never will tell you why you were refused. They'll tell you, read this sheet of paper, 214B, please move along. Sometimes they may give you a reason, but it's actually not the real reason because they're not going to take the time to explain it to you. They might just tell you something like, no, you don't have ties, oh, try again next time. The answer is just no. They're not giving out the reasons for their refusals. Unfortunately for the applicants, that leaves you in a spot where you just have no idea why this happened. Well, okay, we can help you. As visa officers that did 1 million visa interviews in total, I did 60,000 of these. That's you've done so many of these, it becomes second nature and intuitive. When I hear someone tell me what happened, what questions were asked, what answers they gave, the contents of their DS-160, I know with a great deal of certainty what went through the visa officer's mind, what influenced their decision. Now, I also can learn from you what other factors could have influenced that decision, but that you never actually brought up. You're not asked the question. And so I can help you identify that information, present it the next time, and get that visa issued. Okay, so Susan says, they just gave me 214B. What should I answer in my next interview if the visa officer asks me why you were refused? Well, on your DS-160, you should very simply just say, I was refused 214B. They don't expect you to know any more information than that. And in the interview, if they ask you this, unless you have a suspicion, unless I've helped you come up with what that reason may have been, there's no reason for you to say anything other than just that you were refused 214B. Excuse me. And we're back. Okay. So we've got Eden Awoke, who says, I got a full tuition merit scholarship and my living expenses will be covered by an international student loan. Will the loan affect getting visa because of a third world country applicant? Okay. What we've got here in this situation is a highlight and a hurdle, a strength and a weakness. The strength is a full tuition merit scholarship. Okay. The weakness may be this loan. Loans are not often considered a strength on an application because it shows that you and your family may not have the resources to pay for your expenses on their own. So the way that you would want to present this is presenting the strength first. You want to present that full merit scholarship, right? That's what you want to focus on. That's what you want the visa officer to hone in on when making their decision. You have a full merit scholarship. Wow. That's amazing. That's something that not many Americans are able to secure, not many international students are able to secure. So talk about that, right? Don't talk about the loan. Answer a question about the loan, right? Perfunctorily, but focus on that full merit scholarship. How you were able to get that, right? What's the total value? That's what you want to focus on. So Omar tells us that he got a 221G and he was basically asked to submit a DS 5535. This is something that right now it's taking a long time. If you've been asked to fill in the DS 5535, the check that's going to happen may take a long time, 6 months, sometimes even longer. Unfortunately, there's not much that you can do to speed that up. After 6 months, there's a couple things that we can try to do to help you get some attention on your case, to help you try to request an expedite on that. But unfortunately, there's not much that can be done once you get into that process. Okay. Now, in certain situations, we can help you avoid that happening with the preparation. A lot of times, that DS 5535 is requested because they feel uncertain. They feel like they don't understand your situation. So if you do a better job of explaining your situation, of assuaging any concerns or doubts that they might have, then you're going to have a better chance of avoiding being given that DS 5535 form. However, that's not a guarantee. Sometimes that's going to happen no matter what. Okay, let's move on. If my husband was denied a visa years before we got married and we applied for a CR1 at the interview stage, will that affect it? Okay. A prior refusal is definitely going to affect your chances to get any other non-immigrant visa, a temporary visa, a non-green card visa. When it comes to the green card, though, that previous refusal for a non-immigrant visa is not going to affect it most of the time. If it was just a 214B refusal, it's not going to affect your application for a CR1, which is a green card application for a spouse. So that should not affect that at all. You can go in with confidence that he's going to get his visa without a problem, as long as you can prove that your relationship is bona fide. The biggest reason why a CR1 or an IR1 or a K visa gets refused is because the visa officer thinks that the marriage is not legitimate. They think that the marriage is only for immigration purposes. That's to say that it's a fraudulent marriage just to get a green card. And that's why they may refuse the visa. So you have to be prepared to demonstrate to the visa officer that your relationship is indeed real and not just for immigration purposes. Okay. Let's move on. Let's find a unique question here. I got my visa approved on June 15th for fall intake. However, due to personal reasons, I want to plan on deferring. Can I use the same visa for spring 2? Okay. Well, you're going to need a new I-20. If you've got a new I-20 with the same SEVIS number, same program, same school, then you won't have a problem entering the U.S. with that visa. If you're making any changes, though, you're not going to have a smooth. You're not going to smoothly enter the U.S. when you go in if you make any changes, especially if you change your SEVIS number. Let's move on. Once you are approved for your visa, how long do you have to use it to go to the US? Is there a time limit that you need to use it to get on the airplane? Well, on your visa, when it's issued, there will be an expiration date. That expiration date is the last date that you're able to use that visa to enter the US. Many countries have a 10-year visa agreement with the US. So you get your visa today and it would be valid until 2032. That means that you could not travel to the US for 9 years. And then in 2032, you could take a trip to the US. There's no requirement that you use your visa very quickly to travel to the US. If you have a student visa, if you have a J visa or an F visa, you will have a program start date on your visa. You do have to enter the US before that program start date, right? The visa, though, you can use that visa according to the expiration date. The program, though, will give you a program start date, and you do need to abide by that. Adeni Ademola tells us, I was denied a B1, B2 visa when I was in my third year of uni. My older brother is in the US, but he's currently out of status and his B1, B2 has expired. I'm going for a PhD fully funded. I hope this won't affect it. Well, I'm going to tell you, you've got a difficult situation. You've got a very strong resume if you've got a fully funded PhD. And then at the same time, you have a close family member who has misused their visa, has stayed in the US after their H-1B has expired. I don't know the details of this, but if you're telling me that they're in the US and out of status and the H-1B is expired, that's going to be a negative, okay? What you're going to have to do is draw some distance between the two situations, right? This is one of these situations where I would want to learn everything about your situation, your family situation, your brother's situation in the US before giving you a strategy for how to actually pass that visa interview, because at the outset it's going to look very bad, and it would be a shame for you to get refused your visa for a fully funded PhD because of what your brother had done in the US. Everyone who's just tuning in, I'm Ben with Argo Visa. I'm a former consular officer. I did visa interviews for many years all around the world. Now I help visa applicants pass their visa interviews. So we're taking questions here. Submit them, please, just once. Just submit your question once. Any questions that get submitted multiple times, I'm going to skip over those. So submit your questions. We're going to hopefully help you out and help everyone else out by answering these questions about the US visa interview process. Okay. Okay, let's see. We have Tobias says, hello, I just graduated from a master's program in international relations, and now I have admission to start another master's program in social work. Will this affect my getting a visa? You're doing one master's program and then another master's program. That's what we call a non-traditional student. A non-traditional student is any student in any situation that is not the most common, most expected academic route, right? So the most common route that's going to be the traditional student is high school straight into undergrad straight into master's straight into PhD. Anything that varies from that, the visa officer is going to have more questions. You've got a unique situation. You're going to have to explain it to them. So in this situation, we have one master's and then a second master's, right? So don't go into visa interview passive. As always, go in active, knowing this will be the point of concern for the visa officer. And that's what you need to explain to them. You need to explain to the visa officer from the onset why you're going to do a second master's after already completing one in IR. A career change, right? A change of heart. There's no right answer or wrong answer. There's only your answer. And the visa officer, if they believe your answer is genuine and makes sense, people change their minds. People have irregular career paths in academia and in life. And if they believe the reasons that you tell them, they're going to issue you your visa. You just can't go in and pretend like it's not irregular. Don't go in and say, yes, I'm going for a second master's. And they say, well, why would you do that? It's normal. Everyone goes for 2 master's degrees. That is the only bad answer that you're going to be able to give them. Okay. Let's see another question here. F2 visa. Please upload more videos for F2 visa rejection. Well, here it is right now, a video where I'm going to comment on F2 visa rejection. The F2 is the spouse or the child of a student, a visa holder, of an F1 visa holder. The only reason why an F2 visa would be refused, well, there's two. One is that they don't believe that you have a real relationship to the F1 visa holder. Two is that they don't believe that you're going to use it well. This could depend on what the F1 visa holder has been doing in the US. I'm going to give you an example of why an F2 might be refused. Uh, in the F1 visa holders interview, they were asked, okay, is your wife or husband going to go to the US to with you while you study? And in the interview, the F1 applicant said, no, absolutely not. My spouse is going to remain in our country, and I'm going by myself. And then 1 month later, the spouse comes in to apply for a visa. Well, looks like the information doesn't correspond. There's a little disconnect. Maybe somebody wasn't telling the truth, and you're going to see a refusal there. There's any number of reasons why they're going to see a disconnect there, and we can help you identify those and help you address them and overcome them. Let's move on to another question. It's another one about a 221G. Okay, so Param Singh says, and I'm familiar with this one. Why did this happen? Why have they asked me about this info? It doesn't matter. The why already doesn't matter. It's already happened. We will never know the why. We can guess. We can help you analyze what may have most probably influenced that decision. However, they're never going to tell you why they requested that information. You'll never know why. And so really all there is to do is address the current situation, what's in our control, and that's what we can do now, which many times is nothing. You can bring all your big guns out and try to go and get a congressional inquiry from a contact in the U.S. That's going to be a senator or a congressperson contacting the consulate or embassy on your behalf. However, that does not compel the embassy to do anything to expedite that case. In most cases, there's nothing that you can do but wait. Okay. Let's see, some more questions. Do you see the GPA to approve the visa? Says Bob Dylan. Well, Bob Dylan, there's no minimum GPA that you must have in order to get a US visa. However, holistically, as a whole, the visa officer has to trust that you are a bona fide student, that you're a legitimate student. That means that your GPA is considered in conjunction with everything else, right? If you have a high GPA, well, that looks like you're a very dedicated student, and that's probably what you would continue to do in the US. However, if you have a low GPA, it doesn't mean that you're going to be refused, but you may need to highlight other aspects of your application. Maybe your family's finances are quite strong, even though you haven't been that diligent of a student. That's not necessarily going to ruin your visa application. You just have to be prepared to address that. Is there any limit for approvals for any universities? Says Shiva Kumar. No, there is not. This is a myth that I would like to dispel for you. There are no quotas for student visas, for B1, B2 visas, for L visas. There's no quota, right? The visa officer doesn't only get to issue a certain number and then they have to refuse the rest. No matter how many times I say this, many people on the internet, they'll comment and say they don't believe that's true. I don't know why. I can assure you, in all my experience, in all of my colleagues' experience, we can all confirm for you that there are no quotas. That visa officer, even if they've issued every visa that day, they can still then issue your visa after that, right? If there's no one saying you must deny 10% of the visas, right? So they've already issued 90, so they have to refuse the next 10. No, that is not how it works. They do try to match their decisions with that of their colleagues, to all be within the same range. They don't want to be an outlier, but that doesn't mean that they'll ever arrive at a single applicant's case and say, nope, I've already issued too many visas, going to have to refuse you no matter what. That does not happen. The H-1B obviously has a quota, but if you get your petition approved, you've already met the quota. So yeah, with no visas, is there any quota for issuing and refusing? Dispel that from your mind. Okay. Also, another myth for everyone that's watching right now. It's also another myth that I have tried to dispel, and many people doubt that I'm telling them the truth. I was a visa officer. I did 60,000 visa interviews. Me and my colleagues have done over 1 million. We all can confirm for you that it's not just the visa officer's mood that affects whether you get the visa or not. Claiming that it must just be the visa officer's mood is quite simply abdicating your own responsibility to 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 present your case in the best way to get your visa issued, right? Obviously, some visa officers are tougher than others. We know this. Some have higher refusal rates than others. One person might have an average refusal rate of 15%, while another one might have an average refusal rate of 10%. So there are differences. And sometimes visa officers are in a bad mood, like every other human. Sometimes they're impolite, they're not courteous, they're abrupt, they're rushed. But these visa officers are all very earnest people trying to do their job correctly. They're all trying to do their job correctly. Even if they're not being kind and polite and courteous and providing good customer service, they are trying to make the correct decision on every visa applicant, right? So they may be dismissive, and I'm sorry for that. I apologize on behalf of my former colleagues for their lack of customer service skills in some cases. However, they are not just saying, I'm in a bad mood right now. I'm going to start refusing these people. It's before lunch and I'm hungry. I'm going to refuse everyone. Obviously, people are at the mercy of emotions. However, these are people that are very diligent and very earnest and trying to do their job well. Mood is the smallest factor that might influence their decision. Your performance, what you say in the interview, is 100 times more powerful and more influential in the visa decision than what mood the visa officer is in. I hope that helps a lot of people, knowing that you do have the power to influence this decision. If you prepare well, you can influence the visa decision and get your visa issued. How can I know the reason for my F1 visa rejection? Says, it's me, Jofi. Well, you'll never know from the visa officer themselves. You'll never know from them. You'll never know from the consulate or embassy. You can infer it. I can help you infer it from what happened in the visa interview, but there's no way that you're ever going to know exactly what the reason was from the consulate themselves. They do not give out that information. Many years later, you may be able to do a Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA request to get those visa notes, those interview notes. They will be redacted, however, and they don't often contain the true thinking behind the refusal, just some simple notes that back up the refusal. Okay. Will it affect my interview that the major that I took for my bachelor's is different from my master's? Well, we'll just call that a non-traditional path. No, I did the same thing. My bachelor's degree and my master's degree are in different fields. Americans do this. It's quite common. It's not something that's going to ruin your visa application. You do need to be prepared to address it, to tell them why this makes sense. Why does it make sense for you? Okay. And these reasons need to be personal. You don't need to go in and think, okay, well, they want to know why I want to change this field, and say, okay, well, this is a field that has, that will help people in my country, and I will gain the knowledge for the. No. They want something that's a personal reason. Don't tell me why a field is a good field. Tell me why it's good for you. Are you going to get a better job? You're going to make more money, right? Are you going to have the opportunity to get employed at a better company, right? These are reasons that are personal to you. And those are the real reasons why people make these decisions. And they're the reasons that the visa officer is going to believe that you're being honest with them, forthright, and that they can trust you. LQ Boljon says, hi, Ben, I would like to apply for an F1 visa to do my master's degree, but my sponsor is my uncle and he lives in the US. Will it affect me getting my F1 visa? The answer to that question is yes, it will affect you getting your visa. Your uncle being in the US is a tie to the US. We always talk about ties. You have ties to your home country, you have ties to the US. Well, your uncle is in the US, so you do have a family member who's already permanently residing in the US, right? Second of all, your financial support, your means of support are coming from a US source, right? That's another tie to the US rather than a tie to your home country. So if you just tell them in the interview, yes, my uncle will pay. Where's your uncle? My uncle's in the US. Well, you're setting yourself up for failure. You need to be prepared to tell them how this is not a tie to the US, how you still have plenty of ties to your home country, and having your uncle who's going to pay for you in the US is not going to prevent you or dissuade you from going back to your home country when you're done studying and not staying in the US permanently. Okay, Harsh Chauhan says, I have traveled to Russia on a tourist visa in 2020. Please tell me, will this affect my F1 visa chances due to the political issues between the US and Russia? No, that will not affect your visa application. There is no ban on people traveling to Russia. If you've traveled to Russia, many Americans have traveled to Russia. Many international students have traveled to Russia, and then they are able to go to the U.S. Russians themselves can apply for a U.S. visa in countries outside of Russia, and they can get their U.S. visa issued. There's nothing about the current political situation that's going to stop you from getting a visa for having traveled to Russia in the past. Well, Ekias Tech says, what do you tell them when they ask you, what changes have you made after the rejection? Okay, well, I said this before, I'll say it again. You have to say something. You can't say nothing. Now, even if you apply 1 week after a rejection, you still have to answer that question with some information, right? Now, people ask me, do I need to change the school? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, they did not refuse the school a visa. They refused you a visa, okay? If you can change some information that's very influential, then yes. For instance, if you've gotten accepted into a community college and you got refused for a community college, but you've also gotten accepted into Harvard, you should say that has changed, right? That's a big change. It's going to change the way that they're thinking. But if you're going to one community college in Massachusetts and now you want to go to a community college in Connecticut just because, that's a change you can put in your resume, that's a bad change. It's not a bad change. It's a negligible change. It's not going to change their mind. So when they ask you what's changed and you say, no, I'm going to a different community college, it's not better information, right? It's the same. You were going to community college the first time, you're going to community college now. So there's no real change. What you need to do when you're asked that question is present your top highlight, Maybe you didn't get the chance to present it the first time. So that's the change. It's that during this interview, you're presenting your information better. That's what you have to do, though. You got to put that good information, not just any change. It's not mechanical like that. You need to present perhaps a change or just perhaps new information that will change the visa officer's mind. Let's go on to another question here. Okay. Salvin Simpson says, I tried to explain to the VO, but she interrupted me and stopped me from convincing her. I prepared according to Argo. What was the problem? Different VOs have different preferences? Yes. The visa officers will never just let you speak as long as you want to, right? They will never just let you speak without end for 10 minutes about your situation. They will ask you a question, probably at least 2, maybe 3, sometimes 4. Well, you're getting more opportunities if they ask 5, 6, 7 questions, but they're going to ask you one question. We know that. They're going to ask you one question. If you're going to change the visa officer's mind and get them to issue you your visa, the only thing that can do that is what you say to them in response to that question. Even though some visa officers might be very abrupt and they cut you off, it still is the only opportunity that you have. It's unfortunate that visa officer didn't give you the chance to speak at all. But that is the only opportunity that you have, right? So you do have to try to use that opportunity as best you can to give a full, concise answer that's going to change their thinking, right? You're not going to be given the opportunity to give a speech. You're going to be given the opportunity to answer a question one time. So you've got to get that information packed in there to spark interest in their mind, to spark that thought in their mind. Maybe this person merits getting a visa. You've got to get that information out. There's never any guarantees, right? This is a human process. There's never any guarantees that the visa officer is going to do what you want them to do. What we can do with our experience and our preparation and the strategy that we've developed at Argo that's helped hundreds of applicants get their visas issued is going to maximize your chances better than any other preparation that you can do. But there is no guarantee. There's only maximizing your chances. Pritam says, after how many years of a gap can I apply again as a fresher after my previous F1 refusal? Basically a semester. If you have a new program, if you have a new program start date, you're applying for a new semester, then you can go in as a fresher again because it's a new situation. It's when you're applying for the same program, same start date, same major, same school that you were in before, or changing to a very similar school during the same semester, the same admission period, that's going to be considered you're not actually a fresher. And you do not want to apply as a fresher if you aren't a fresher. You're basically hurting yourself from the very beginning because they're not going to trust you. They're going to think, okay, through connivance and tomfoolery, you have secured yourself a visa interview spot, and they're not going to look on that favorably. Is it harder to get an F1 visa? Asks Apinav Avasarala. Is it harder to get an F1 visa approved if your parents are living in the US on a work visa? Not necessarily. Okay. If your parents are in the US on a work visa, let's say an L visa or an H visa, I assume those are the ones that we're talking about. That should actually make it easier to get your F1 visa issued because that shows that your parents are most likely professionals making US salary, are going to be able to pay for this. It's going to establish that you've got some stability and the ability to pay for your schooling in the US. However, if you don't proactively assert that, it could just be taken as, oh wait, you've got your family in the US, or you're trying to get is the whole family just trying to get to the US permanently? You just have to be ready to explain it. Don't be passive. Don't. If you're passive, you're just rolling the dice. What that means, rolling the dice means gambling. You're just taking the dice and rolling and hoping it comes up in your favor. That's not the way you want to do that, right? It works for some people. Some number of people will get their visas issued. Do you want to be the person that gets your visa refused, though, because you left it to chance? No. You want to go in with the best strategy possible, okay? For those just tuning in, let me reintroduce myself. My name's Ben. I'm with Argo Visa. Argo Visa is a company. It's a network of former visa officers. There are over 20 of us that have served in 35 countries. We speak 14 different languages. Most likely, we speak your language. We've worked in your country as a visa officer. I've done 60,000 visa interviews myself. In total, we've done over 1 million. We can help you in a one-on-one consultation to get your visa issued. Today, we're going through questions that you're submitting, and we're answering them. Hopefully, they'll help you, and it'll help everyone else that's watching to get their visas issued with some good information, some good tactics, some good strategies, some good concepts that you'll be able to apply in your visa interview. Okay, let's get a good question here. Let's see if we have anything that's going to be relevant to everyone. My spouse is on F1 OPT. Will this affect my chances of getting an F1? Good question. Interesting question. Well, we can use that as a positive, right? Your spouse is in the US on an F1, right? Hopefully, went to a reputable school, has used their visa well, didn't get involved in any of these OPT scams where students have been defrauded by these companies. And will it affect your chances? No. What you want to do is be able to show the professional nature, the good use of the visa in your family, right? Both of you going on F1s, excelling in your academic careers. It shouldn't be a negative. Again, presenting it proactively. Now, that does bring up a topic that I want to address, which is OPT. This won't apply to everyone, but maybe it will apply to many people out there who already had a visa previously. There, there's OPT after you finish your program. There were companies that basically tricked students into paying a fee for some training. They told the students that they were going to place them in jobs at some of the top companies in America, but then those jobs never materialized. Right? The students were surprised. The students were let down, disappointed, were not given the internships and the jobs that they thought they were going to get, and now they're held responsible for the fraud that the companies committed on them. All right, many of these students have gotten their visas revoked. If you're in this situation, contact us. We've helped dozens of students overcome that and get their visas issued. We can help you too. All right, let's see here. Sir, will the visa officer know if my sibling is in the USA? The visa officers can look up any visa applicant that they want, right? It's the modern age. We have computers, we have the internet, we have databases. If the US government has issued a visa to someone, they can look up that person's visa history. When you enter the US, there's flight manifests, there's entry and exit records that will be known. You need to prepare for your interview, assuming that the visa officer knows this information about you and about your family. Mr. Glenn says, I told I had internship experience without mentioning it in the DS-160 in my first visa interview. I wrote that I did a few courses during a gap year. Do I need to add that experience in the second attempt? Well, you're in a tough situation because now if you change your next DS-160, it looks like you're just changing information, hoping that by changing data in your application, your chances of getting the visa issued will be higher. I don't know your specific situation, so I can't give you advice on what you should do now, but I can tell everyone else the DS-160 is a visa application. It's not a job resume. On your job resume, you pick and choose. You selectively choose some experience to put on the resume, depending on what job you're applying to, and you leave off other experience. That's fine for a job resume. For the DS-160, don't do that. For the DS-160, put every job experience. Don't pick and choose. They're trying to see everything that you've done over time, continuously, chronologically. They don't want to just see a few highlights with gaps between. Those gaps bring up questions. Okay, from 2017 to 18, what did you do? There's nothing here on this resume. You don't want to leave the visa officer with any doubts or concerns or questions. You want the visa officer, with every piece of information you give them, every answer that you give them, you want to resolve their doubts, right? Dispel their questions. That's your goal, is to leave them confident that they know what's going on in your situation. Okay, we've got Mark Zupergerb here. Is the bank statement that we show in the I-20, should it be more than the expenses on the I-20? Okay, this goes to funding, right, and sponsors. The visa officers want to know that you've got a stable financial situation. It's not just checking a box. Okay, bank statement, what's the amount? Tuition, what's the amount? If it's greater than, then okay. That's not how it works. The visa officer wants to feel that, in general, the comprehensive financial situation of yourself and your family, if you're a younger student on that I-20, is going to be sufficient to not just pay for your education, but to keep you in a moderately comfortable lifestyle while you're in the US, and then when you return to your own country. So many people, I don't know why, will open up a separate bank account and just deposit the exact amount of the funds for the I-20 into that bank account. Do not do this, right? You want to present your entire financial wealth on that statement. Now, also, when they ask you about paying for your education during the interview, do not simply just tell them you've got X amount of dollars in a bank account that equals the amount of tuition. No, tell them about your comprehensive familial finances. Have you been working? Do you have any savings? Do you have any assets? Your parents, do they have what are their professions or businesses? Where does their stability come from? Any assets, real estate, investments, savings, whatever that is. Bring it all out. The more that you're able to show financially, the better your chances are going to be of getting your visa issued. Okay, Starry says, Sir, will it decrease my chances if I have a sister in the USA and she's an LPR? Also, she's married. Well, like I said before, that's a tie to the US. Having a tie to the US makes it more necessary that you tell the visa officer how you have more ties to your home country than you do to the US, right? You've got a sister in the US that's living there and has a green card. They're going to think, okay, well, that means that in your family that's already an established behavior. Maybe you will attempt to do the same thing. You've got to dispel that doubt. You've got to counter that suspicion, and you've got to let them know why you will behave differently than your sister did. Because even though it is legal to get to the US and adjust status from a non-immigrant visa to a green card, it is something that the visa officers are explicitly told to avoid happening. If they think that's what you're going to do, they will refuse your visa. Okay, let's take two more questions. Okay, Kurt Pasquale says, I had a study visa from another foreign country. Will this affect my F1 visa application? Well, it can only affect it positively. And it's because you're already demonstrating when you have a study visa from another country that let's assume that you already were studying there. Well, it shows us that you did what you said you were going to do when you got a student visa. They're trying to discern what you might do if they give you a US visa to go study. Well, if you've already got a visa to another country where you got your visa and then you went and you did study, well, that behavior is already confirmed, right? So it should help you. Now, let's say that you got a visa to study in the UK and then one for the US, and you didn't actually go to the UK yet. That's not a bad thing either, because it shows that you already had a visa to the UK, which is depending on where you're from, it's a higher income country. It's a desirable destination to immigrate, but you did not. You already had that visa in the passport and you came in for a US visa application. It should be taken as a positive. All right, let's go for one more question here. PBO2 Whale says, I got 2 denials. So do I have any chance to get a visa? Yes, you do. If you've only been denied 214B, you can still get your visa issued again without any special processes. You just have to convince the new visa officer through your strategy and through your answers in your next visa application why they should give you the visa. It is possible. We can help you do that. We can figure out for you what your highlights are, how to present them, and what your weaknesses are, and how to defend yourself against them. That's what we can do for you. If you were denied under a different section, maybe for an overstay in the US previously, or maybe you got arrested while you were in the US, there are also ways to get around that, right? Many times it involves requesting a waiver during your visa application. There are ways to get your visa issued, and we can maximize your chances. We're Argo Visa. I'm Ben. Contact us. Go to our website. You can find it in the links. Click in the links, leave your comments. Go to our website. Check out the information there. You can sign up for a one-on-one consultation with a former visa officer. Most likely, one of us has worked in your country. We might speak your language. We definitely understand your visa type, and we can help you get your visa issued. You can also check out our bot, which is an AI-driven tool developed by former visa officers to help you assess your qualifications as a visa applicant. It's a free tool that you can use. You can find that at bot@argovisa.com. You can also go to our website, argovisa.com. You can click the link below, and you can go to our website. You'll find the link to that there. I look forward to helping you. My colleagues, we all look forward to helping you and getting your visa issued. All right, everybody. Hope you have a good day. Student visa season. Hope the students that are applying for their visas right now are all getting their visas issued. Have a good day, everyone.